Hello everyone and welcome to my 2025 review. This year I'm just focusing on my music because my music is becoming my main focus. So I recently went through my notes from last year to do a review of those, and then I went through and worked out everything that I achieved this year, and also did my work on my vision board and updated that and worked out what I want to achieve in the coming year, which will be mentioned in future videos. But I really wanted to come on and just highlight some of the things I actually managed to achieve this year, because it's so easy to forget just how much you do when you get caught up in life and things maybe don't go the way you planned, and it's very easy to think that you didn't do a lot, and actually when you look back you realize you did. So I find this a really useful exercise. So I'm going to start off with the stats like I did I think last time. And to begin with, I wrote 10 new songs this year. Now it's less than what I'd done in previous years, because this year I sort of focused more on preparing the way for recording and getting other things done. So I didn't feel the need to write as much this year, and I was also focusing on other things. But I still was kind of amazed that I managed to do 10 songs, because a lot of people consider that an album. So even though not all of them I would say are in the kind of repertoire that I would perform on stage, I did manage to write 10 full songs, so I was quite pleased with that. And I also managed to actually record as part of a feature on a collaboration with Laugh Strange. That song is yet to come out. It will come out later in the year. I also managed to do one feature that was at Bloggers Ableton, and that was an incredible night. I know I really hit the nail on the head that night, because I had people like coming in to fill in the front. And even though it's a noisy kind of like sort of cafe vibe venue, it actually went quiet when I played Delicate, which is a very soft finger picking song. And that's when I knew I had them. And that was the first time I performed Fool's Gold as well. And so it was really good to get a public reaction to that and realizing that I was on the right track. So I just remember that being a very important day this year, because I haven't been able to perform much in 2025, and a lot of that was a number of life circumstances that were coming together that was just making it really difficult. And so I decided, rather than get frustrated by it, I decided to use it as an opportunity to focus on getting myself set up so I could start recording. Now, this feature was also part of the Copenhagen Songwriters Festival, so I can now officially say that I've performed at a festival, so I'm really happy to have that accolade. But I did manage to perform at 4 open mics at the Listening Room, so I did manage to get a few of my songs out there, and I'll talk about one of them towards the end that went particularly well. So since I sort of retreated into Sunstone Studio here and did a lot of work, one of the things I decided to do, quite by hapstance, was to start my YouTube channel. I originally only started it because I thought about, well, how can I make things work locally if I can't get to Copenhagen? And I thought about, trying to get local paid gigs and all of that. And I thought about signing up to services such as Be My Concert and Uncover. And so I thought, I'm going to need some videos on YouTube in order to sort of like have on my artist profile. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to go create a YouTube and put a few videos up. And I got sucked into it. And I actually had some of the videos do really well. Like had a few go over 1,000 views. I think a clip of Matter of the Heart got nearly 1,600 views. And so some of them went really crazy. And I realized, there's something here. If I'm actually posting regularly here, I do actually get traction. And that's without any advertising. That was even before, a lot of them that went well was even before I had announced that I was doing YouTube. So I realized that this was on the right track, because one thing that definitely happened this year was that I started having a real love-hate relationship with social media, and in particular the meta platforms. It's like I understand there are certain things and benefits to having, a presence there, but I really had to step away several times in the year, and it just wasn't feeling aligned. I was feeling very drained. I was getting caught in the wheel of the algorithm. And even though I moved to YouTube, and then once I launched it, I started, trying to be consistent, to get noticed by the algorithm, I didn't feel drained in the same way. I actually felt motivated. So I just got this as a sign that I'm supposed to be focusing more on YouTube right now. It may be that I start paying more attention to the other platforms later once I really figure out how to do it in a way that isn't taxing me so much. But YouTube is really is really feeling right for me. So that was a big thing. And I started the channel technically at the end of June, but I didn't launch until the end of September. And in the time between June and now, I released 63 music videos. That's both shorts and long form. So that's not bad. There was a period of about 6 weeks where I was trying to do a video a day to build up a sort of like a archive. Again, because I was thinking about the artist profiles, but also when I decided I was going to, make a thing of it, I wanted sort of a little sort of archive of the best highlights from my live performances in the last sort of 3 and some years on the Copenhagen music scene. So I really just got into the zone of video editing and all of that, and reworked a lot of the videos. I made it so that instead of like the full sets that I was doing on Instagram, where you got everything, the introductions, the 2 songs and all of that, I actually clipped it up so you get 1 song per video, so that if there's a particular song you like, you can find it and have it on repeat if that's what you like. And also I tried to make the videos a bit more consistent in terms of how it looked. And so yeah, it was a good process. So there was many other things that I managed to do besides those stats. Some of these were big blocks that for years they were kind of like plaguing me. One of them was that when I tried to get started with home recording a few years ago, I wanted some kind of solution in my studio space upstairs where I could have acoustic panels on the walls, but I didn't want to like glue them to the wall, and I didn't want to have to use power tools and like, have big boards that I'd have to saw and all of this stuff, because my back can only handle so much, So I was trying to find a solution, and I tried so many times to find something that worked over the last, 2 or 3 years. And I think my 5th attempt, if I am correct, I think it's my 5th attempt, I found something. And I decided to actually record as I went. So I actually have a video, almost documentary or resource that I want to put out, but that's for later. But I did this. I filmed it and I put it together and I got it up, and I now have foam on the wall at last. This was something that I didn't know if I was ever gonna get a solution for that satisfied me. And even though it's not perfect, it's like it works. So that was a big win for this year, because without a space to record in, it's like it limits you, right? So that was a big one. Another big thing that happened this year is like I have been throwing so much spaghetti against the wall, not just in music, but in other areas of my life, trying to figure so many things out and see what sticks and what doesn't. And I've had this feeling for it, I don't know, the last year or two. I was supposed to find my niche, is what it came down to. And I kept trying to figure it out and all of this stuff. And not just in music. But I think I finally found it, because, as I'll talk about a little later, I've had such issues with getting myself to the point where I could record. And it's not just the physical things of having the right gear and the foam set up and all of that. There was this huge emotional block, which I've talked about and opened up about this year, that was stopping me. And I realized, if you've ever seen Tad Hargrave's Marketing for Hippies, he talks about the fact that your biggest wound is your niche. And I realized that my fear, and I mean fear, of getting into music production and actually opening up a door and actually recording and actually figuring out how to do this was such a big block for me. And this was actually my wound. This was the thing that I needed to turn into my niche. And when I first put the video out, Overcoming DAWophobia, facing my biggest fear, music production, I got a lot of responses. And considering how small my YouTube channel is, it was pretty significant. And I realized, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be focusing on, because it's not just about the music production, phobia, technophobia kind of thing. It's the fact that I have been learning how to overcome my anxiety for a long time. And I realized that I can, in other areas of my life, in personal areas of my life. And I realized I can apply this to my music production. I can help work through this block. And I decided I wanted to record the process as I go, rather than wait a few years and then talk in hindsight from a place of, I've overcome this. I actually wanted to document as I go. And I started that process in 2025. And there's a lot more to come, so watch out. But to just figure out this is what I can focus on was huge, because it gives me a sense of accountability, because it gives me, I need to keep showing up and I need to keep doing this, because this is how I'm helping other people. And I know that that is going to motivate me to continue to work through this thing as time goes on. So that was a massive revelation for me last year. I'm still getting used to the fact it's 2026. But yeah, that was a big step as well. Another thing that I did was early in the year is I managed to complete writing on the EP Delicate. Now, I had already written Your Gentle Side and Just Keep Moving quite some time ago, I think it was the summer 23. But I knew that I wanted them to be on an EP on their own. But then I felt like I had decided to have this song called Delicate, and I talked about it in a previous video. And I realized it kind of thematically fit those two songs, and it should be the title track of the EP. And I'd waited a little while for that song to come through. I knew it was coming. And then it finally completed at the beginning of 25. And that was a huge thing. So this is actually going to be the first EP I'm going to record. I've got a few other recording projects I plan to do first, just to sort of cut my teeth and get a little familiar with it. But once I'm ready to work on something bigger, the Delicate EP is the first one I plan to record. So it was good to have that finally written at last. I knew it was coming, that song, and when it finally came out, I was really happy with it. So yeah, the other thing I did, as we talked about YouTube, was when I initially moved all my stuff over to YouTube, I sort of kept the same kind of branding and look as I had done on Instagram in the last videos I'd been doing on Instagram. But I soon realized that that didn't really work for the YouTube platform. YouTube thumbnails work differently, and what I had wasn't good enough because you couldn't really read it when it was on a mobile or anything like that. So I decided to do a rebrand, and I kind of researched the best ways to do it, and I learned about, making the fonts bigger and making sure you can see your face and all of these things. And so I'm quite happy now with what I've got. I'm sure I'm going to continue to tinker as we go along, but the last few videos that you see on my YouTube channel, you can see there is a difference in the way it looks, and I've decided to make these fonts and that the brand for the music. So, and I've actually moved that to my theastone.com website, and so it's starting to pop up in other places now. So it's kind of going to like propagate out wherever it needs. But yeah, I'm much happier with the look now as well. So so that was also good. Now we get on to some big stuff. So even bigger stuff. One of the biggest milestones of 2025 was I finally completed the Home Recording Academy course by Isobel Anderson. I had this course for 2.5 years, and because of my DAWophobia and because of life circumstances, it meant that I couldn't prioritize it. It just sat on a shelf. And finally, because of the way life worked out in 2025, and I had to sort of like go into hermit mode and all of that, I kind of had it in the back of my mind that this needed to be a goal that I needed to work towards this year, since I was going to be mostly based at home. And to top it off, the universe sort of decided, well, we're going to make extra sure you do it, and know that the course is closing down by the end of the year. So you have to get it done now. Now, even though I downloaded all the resources and everything, I wanted to use the fact it was closing down as a sort of motivator to sort of like make sure I did it, because it was so much easier to use the course interface to click next and go to the next video. And so I thought, well, let's try and get this done whilst it's still in a more easy format to use. So that's what I did. And it took me about 3 months to do it. There was a little gap in there between for some personal reasons. I had to take a break, but I got it done in 3 months, and I was so proud when I did that, because it was again something that had been blocked from being done for several years, and it finally showed me that I could actually learn the foundations of this stuff. There's a lot more to learn, but what it did is it plugged a lot of the gaps in my sort of knowledge that I needed to understand to have a good foundation so that I could build from. And now that I've done that, I know that I have what I need to get going. So so that was huge to do that. And it required me really working through the emotional stuff, the blocks and everything. And that's still there. That still needs to be worked on. But it allowed me to break the ice. It allowed me to get going. And I hope to keep riding that as we go forward. So, yeah. And as part of this, I actually started to learn a little bit of Ableton, a little bit of Reaper. I also created my first MIDI sample with a soap rack. Maybe you saw that. And I was actually really happy with the way it sounded. It was really fun actually to just do field recording around the studio and then come and play around with it. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. So, so it started to open up some ideas for me about what I could do with the stuff that I already have. So that was really, really good. And then finally, the last thing I want to mention is at the end of the year, my last performance at the Listening Room, which was at the new venue, I got to perform Rare Thing. Now, this is a song that I wrote back in September. It's a very emotional song. And, sometimes in life, things just align for you. And everything just kind of clicks. Everything just kind of works. Everything works out the way you hoped, And not only that, performing this song, it was an incredibly cathartic moment, and I completely sort of emotionally bled on stage. I mean, it was just, there was no holding back in that for me. And people responded to it. I even had someone go, wow, in the audience just before everybody started clapping. And everybody who talked to me afterwards said, did you hear that person who said, wow, and all of that? It's one of those moments you remember. It's one of those moments that makes you realize that you're taking a step up in your songwriting and performing as well. And I was so happy to do that song justice, because and I've got some more content around that song that I hope to release at some point, that I recorded back in the time when I created it, because I like to sometimes, if I can, capture stuff in the moment when the song is fresh, because that means that you can capture the emotion and what was going on behind it, because as time goes on you feel differently, and things change and you may not feel the same way as you did back when you wrote it. And so I like to capture that stuff. So I have some of that's going to come out soon, but to be able to go and perform that song for the first time when it had been waiting for I think about 3 months to finally be heard at all, it was a complete premiere. And to do it that much justice, I was so happy with that performance. It was probably the best thing I've done. I don't know, it might be the best song I've ever written. And that was a performance worthy of it. So that was just such a great way to sort of like complete the year after I just finished my course. In terms of, being in the public eye, and that was a great way to sort of like close the year. So speaking of, I'm going to close this review here now, but there is so much in the works for 2026. I just recorded another film today for a 2026 sort of video of what's coming. So keep tuned. Definitely subscribe to YouTube if you want to be the first to know about what's coming, because it's bigger than anything I've ever done before, and I'm really, really putting myself out there in a big way. So I can't wait to share it all with you. I hope your 2025 was even more fruitful than mine. And even if it wasn't, even if it was like a year that you had to also sort of pull back, focus on yourself, that work bears fruit in the years to come. So much love and keep shining. Bye.